In 1970, Canada's government handed every dairy in the country an ultimatum: switch to metric or face fines of $5,000 a day. Retooling a single bottling plant would cost millions. But a flexible plastic bag, 4 cents a litre, a third the price of glass. That emergency shortcut is why Canada still sells milk in bags. The real mystery is why it never stopped. On March 31, 1977, the clock ran out for Canada's dairies. The Metric Commission's final deadline hit with the force of law. Every carton, jug, and bottle had to display metric volumes. No exceptions. For plant managers, the choices were stark. Ignore the order and risk fines of up to $5,000 a day, or find a way to retool every filling line in the factory. The white paper on metric conversion, released over 7 years earlier, had promised a gradual cooperative rollout. But the legal text left little room for comfort. Inspectors were empowered to issue stop-sale orders, and the threat of losing access to federal milk marketing was spelled out in memos circulated to every regional board. Trade journals in the mid-1970s painted a grim picture. Retrofitting a single bottling plant for metric sizes could run into the millions. Even the cost of converting a carton line was estimated in the high hundreds of thousands, money that few regional dairies had on hand. The capital crunch was not theoretical. Board minutes from the Canadian Milk Producers Association show legal counsel warning that non-compliance after the March deadline would expose dairies to both crippling fines and the loss of federal support. Compliance was not just about labels. It meant new molds, new dyes, and new equipment calibrated for half-litres, litres, and 4-litre packs, volumes that did not match any existing machinery. Plant managers faced a no-win scenario. Delay and the fines would pile up daily. Invest and the outlay threatened to sink smaller operations. The pressure to find a cheaper, faster workaround grew with every passing month. In the words of one trade press editorial, the timing of the metric deadline left little room for incremental investment. By 1977, the scramble for a solution had become an industry-wide emergency. DuPont's Milkmate bag didn't just appear out of thin air, it was engineered as the ultimate workaround for a looming metrication crisis. In 1967, DuPont Canada's product engineers, working out of Toronto, introduced a thin, flexible polyethylene pouch that could be heat-sealed at any length. The heart of the system was a simple but clever idea. Instead of forcing dairies to buy new molds for every metric volume, the Milkmate bag could be cut and sealed to any size on the fly. US Patent 2,990,101, granted in 1961, spelled out the design: a plastic bag for milk, sealed by heat, with adjustable length. This variable seal feature meant dairies could switch from quarts to litres overnight without retooling the entire line. The cost advantage was impossible to ignore. DuPont's own brochures, distributed to dairy boards across Ontario and Quebec, put the per-litre price of a Milkmate bag at about 4 cents. That compared to 12 cents for a glass bottle, and nearly double for new metric jugs. The only equipment required was a heat sealer and a basic filler, both compact enough to fit onto existing factory floors. Sales reps like John Miller became familiar faces at regional dairy meetings, rolling out side-by-side cost sheets and inviting skeptical plant managers to run trial fills. The promise was simple: no expensive molds, no capital shock, just a film roll and a heat bar. By 1967, the Milkmate system was already being promoted as metric-ready. The engineering pitch was direct: avoid the million-dollar retrofit, use a bag that fits any rule Ottawa throws at you, and keep your plant running. For dairies staring down the March 1977 deadline, Milkmate looked less like a novelty and more like a lifeline. The technical fix was in place. What followed would be a transformation not just in packaging, but in the daily ritual of how Canadians poured a glass of milk. A trip to the dairy aisle in Ontario or Quebec reveals a quiet ritual repeated in millions of kitchens: the 3-bag milk pack. Each purchase delivers a clear outer pouch holding 3 thin bags, each filled with just over a litre of milk. Grocery flyers from the late 1970s advertised these packs as a bargain, often under $2 for 4 litres, less than the price of a comparable jug or carton. But the real twist comes after checkout. Unlike jugs or cartons, bagged milk demands its own supporting actor, the reusable plastic pitcher sold for $1 or $2, sometimes handed out as a store promotion. At home, the routine is simple but oddly satisfying. One bag slips into the pitcher, the corner is snipped with scissors, and out pours the milk. When empty, the bag is swapped for the next, all without washing a single container between uses. The system feels like a Canadian oddity, but it is built on efficiency. 3 bags per pack, 1 pitcher for years. Over time, this method became second nature. Children learned to open a bag without a spill, parents debated the best way to cut the corner, and the pitcher found a permanent spot in the fridge door. The physical act of pouring from a bag, the sound of plastic against plastic, even the leftover bags waiting for garbage day, these became familiar parts of daily life. What started as a technical fix for metric deadlines and factory costs quietly turned into a household habit, woven deeply into the rhythms of Eastern Canadian kitchens. Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes landed on bagged milk for reasons that had little to do with taste or tradition. The real divide came from the decisions made by provincial dairy boards and the machinery they chose to invest in during the metric conversion scramble. Ontario's board, facing steep retrofit costs and eager for a quick fix, went all in on DuPont's Milkmate bag system. Quebec followed suit, and soon the Atlantic provinces adopted the same approach, drawn by the promise of low capital outlay and flexibility. Meanwhile, British Columbia took a different path. A 1974 study commissioned by the BC Dairy Board found that shipping milk in rigid HDPE jugs allowed a pallet to carry 25% more milk than boxed bags, a detail that shaped the province's logistics for decades. The BC Ministry of Agriculture even offered a 2-cent per litre rebate for dairies installing new jug lines after 1975. Alberta's Dairy Board followed with a directive in 1976, mandating that all member co-ops use rigid containers to meet provincial shipping standards. The result was a patchwork. Bags in the east, jugs in the west, with Saskatchewan and Manitoba aligning with their western neighbours. These early choices, backed by provincial subsidies and reinforced by distribution studies, locked each region into its system. What started as a response to a federal deadline became a permanent part of how Canadians buy their milk. A closer look at the numbers reveals just how tangled the environmental debate around milk packaging has become. According to a 2022 life cycle assessment by the Dairy Farmers of Ontario, producing a litre of milk in a thin plastic bag generates about 30 grams of carbon dioxide equivalent. For a standard high-density polyethylene jug, the figure jumps to 95 grams. Cartons, meanwhile, come in at 28 grams per litre. The bag's edge comes down to material weight. Each litre uses roughly 12 grams of plastic, compared to 95 grams for a jug and 28 grams for a carton. But the story does not end there. Municipal recycling programs in Ontario and Quebec rarely accept these thin film bags in curbside bins, classifying them as contaminants. Most end up in landfill, while jugs and cartons are widely recycled. A Dairy Farmers of Ontario analyst points out that the bag's climate advantage narrows if recycling rates for jugs improve, or if bags continue to miss the recycling stream. The numbers present a dilemma. The lightest package is the hardest to recycle. For dairies, retailers and regulators, the question is not just about grams of plastic, it is about what actually happens after the milk is gone. Grocery aisles in Ontario and Quebec once brimmed with bagged milk, but the landscape has quietly shifted. In 2005, major grocery chains introduced a 1-litre jug designed to fit perfectly into the 300mm shelf slots that dominate refrigerated sections. Category management manuals from that period called for every product to match this retail geometry, a standard that left the wider bag and pitcher combo at a disadvantage. The new jug slid into place with no need for extra space or special handling, while bags required a separate holder and took up more room. Retailers favoured formats that kept stocking simple and shelves uniform. As a result, bagged milk's share of Ontario sales, once as high as 85%, slipped to about 60% by 2015. Nielsen data traces this steady decline, linking it directly to the rise of the jug and the squeeze of shelf specifications. Convenience stores, too, leaned hard into the jug format, drawn by its grab-and-go appeal for urban shoppers and newcomers unfamiliar with the bag ritual. What began as a technical fix for metric conversion now faces a modern squeeze, shaped less by nostalgia and more by the cold logic of shelf space and category plans. Today, millions still slice open milk bags, a daily habit born from bureaucratic urgency, not cultural tradition. As packaging trends shift and sustainability debates intensify, Canada's milk bag endures as a reminder. Some national quirks aren't designed, they're inherited. What other traditions began by accident? Share your thoughts below.